What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here today, and I have an awesome opportunity to interview the player that actually won the Bushiroad Rumble Online for this season, and his name is Curtis. Curtis, do you want to say hi?
Hi, hello everyone.
Awesome, my man. And so which one did you win? The North American one, right?
North America. Yep.
Awesome. And what did you take?
First place, Wilista.
Wilista. Awesome, my man. And so we're going to dive a little bit about, get to know you a little bit better too, why you pick Wilista, and also like go into your matchups too. So that'll be super helpful for the community. So right off the back, I guess, where are you from? Do you guys have any locals or any community-based scene out there?
Yeah, it's really small. I mean, we'll get 10 on an average day, probably 20 on a good day out at our locals every weekend. So it's not bad. Pretty nice little local. Some good people. So yeah, I used to go every weekend around Limit Break Legion Stride format.
Wow.
And then
I was there.
I kind of fell off a little bit. I don't know if I got stale with the game or just overplayed too much, but I just took a break at the end of Stride. Things were really complicated at that time as well, just the format. So much with the Stride decks. But true. Yeah, so I got back into it around V a little bit. But then once Standard came out, and once it started to pick up, because at the beginning it was a little too tame for me, I'd say.
Yeah.
Didn't really.
I mean, it just started a new format, so yeah, I understand.
Yeah, entirely. So it took a few months, but yeah, after the first few sets, I definitely was very interested on where the game was going, and this format was very interesting to me. So I've been loving it. I've been loving what they're doing. Yeah, so it's been nice, but Springfield, Missouri is where I live, so yeah, my locals are right around there. I've gone up to Kansas City, Missouri. They're locals quite a few times. Great Spankies, and yeah, and then St. Louis has a great one as well. But yeah, mainly my locals doesn't bring very many people, so I usually just like kind of play test with Alan at home a lot, and sometimes I'll go up to the locals.
Yeah, and Alan's like one of your best friends for a while too, right? In the Vanguard community too.
And he lives with me, so we're roommates. So yep,
that's awesome. You guys can play test whenever. Literally.
Yep.
That's awesome. So that's really cool, and it's always curious to see like what communities out there too, because you can only see what you see. And it's great that you have a locals too, because I know that there's been conversations where some people just don't have a locals at all. So definitely be appreciative of that.
So. Yeah, awesome. I'm definitely thankful for that.
Yeah, and definitely I could see that from you guys. I guess leading to the mindset and the preparation, like, going into this metagame with this virtual tournament, what are some of the thought process that you went through? Like, why did you pick Wilista, or what are some matchups that you foresaw as well going into it?
Well, I knew there'd be a lot of Gandiva and a lot of Wilista, so you're going to be playing those two a little bit. But I mean, going in, I was really thinking Gandiva was the best deck. I just, to be fair, Alan plays it, so I play it like, every day, every few days. So I had saw the power of it. And man, when we're playtesting, it is not the same as whenever I go into tournaments or something. When we play test, I don't see my pieces. I don't hit triggers. I'm just like, it's the worst case scenario. So I'm like over here thinking Gandiva is he's gonna like run the tournament with Gandiva or do really well. And so before I was thinking like Gandiva's just because of the play testing was in a better state, but seeing it now, it just depends on how long the games go for Gandiva. Like they'll obviously win if they can get to that point.
Yeah.
But they do got to get there. Whereas Wilista can do so much more, has a lot more creativity early game. You can kind of push out pieces that you need, like Persona Rides and Perfect Guards to kind of extend the game for you. So it just kind of depends on the state of the game. Yeah. And that's kind of a little more my play style is being creative just with how the pieces work and what you can do with them, like whether you need to draw or whether you need to push, and I just like that a little bit more. And we wanted to play different things, so I definitely was just like, once we got Wilista, it was hard enough to get. We just,
make it worth it.
was like, I was committed. I was like, and it wasn't like, it's not like I'm trying to win no matter what or anything like that. I'm just playing the game. It's for fun for me.
Oh, that's good.
Alan definitely takes it a little bit more competitively, which is good. He pushes me, which is good. And because otherwise, I mean, I don't even think I would have played. I doubt I would have, but he got me to play, so I thank him that I even made it and won it in the first place. It's just it's a blessing, and he's been great. So
yeah, absolutely.
Credit where credit's due.
Yeah, he's definitely more on the competitive side of things, and sometimes you just need that person to kind of give you that nudge.
Yeah. Well, I don't like to lose, so once I do something, I'm gonna try and win. But I'm not like so much competitive as where I'm just gonna enter every tournament and go to every tournament and stuff like that. I kind of just it's for fun.
I gotcha.
So, definitely helped my mindset. Him being around, like I'm upstairs, he's downstairs, so in between rounds I go down and we just talk about in between rounds, and like before the tournament we're talking and hyping each other up. So
literally that's what you do at an in-person event, but you guys do it virtually. You had to find that medium for these types of events.
At the comfortability of our own home and everything, it just felt really, really smooth and easy, because 8 rounds and standing around at a convention center doing 8 rounds would have felt a lot longer and more tiring. By the time I would have got to round 7 or 8, I would have been signed out.
It can be exhausting.
But it felt good. And then the 2 days, like not having to do top the same day, was definitely much better. Because if I had to go to top, I was just like, I was telling Alan, I'm like 8 rounds in, I'm signed out. I'm just
give me a nap.
I'm just
or something. Yeah, literally, that's the major difference sometimes that people forget, is that when you're in person, you have to travel, you have to account for stuff, and then you're not at something that's like your own home where you can be comfortable. And then, like, if it's all in person, they typically do everything and all in one day. Like, you have to have a lot of like stamina in a sense, both mentally and physically.
Yeah, so, the mental stamina for these tournaments is actually insane.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, glad that you pointed that out. That's really cool. I think it's time to like dive a little bit into your deck list. So, going into your deck list, I noticed that a lot of like Wilista lists are pretty similar. And so what I think would be helpful to the viewer, feel free to point out certain key cards or maybe like the mentality that you had that were important, or maybe like some things for like matchups, like anything like that. So feel free to go over that.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, most of them are pretty cut and dry. You see a couple one-ofs with other lists and stuff like that. I just, I kind of felt like that stopped me from seeing my pieces that I wanted to see. I was really hesitant on running 3 Uica and 3 Valshaplan, just because I pretty much always wanted to see them every game. The cycle and then Uica. They both take soul, which I felt kind of messed with each other a little bit, but you build enough soul in the deck with the order and kind of the way the deck works to where you don't really much have to worry about that. You have to be conscious late game, but you don't really need to bounce things back if on the turn you're going to win. And Valshaplan, you don't always have to soul blast late game, especially if you get the Elvira's on the board and you're able to draw a bunch into into anything that doesn't retire. You're just trying to get Elvira's on the board because you'll win through drawing. That's why the deck is so strong. So if you're playing against Gandiva, or Gears isn't really a problem because they mainly retire once per turn. That's changed a little bit with the Fighters Collection Grade 3 and stuff like that. They can retire a little bit more, but mainly you're going to be playing that Gandiva matchup, and Elvira loses a little bit of her value because it's just a 1-for-1. So I try not to focus on her as much and focus more on the aggro, so you can kill the Gandiva before they can get to their 30k columns for 5 attacks and stuff like that. I did run Reassured as well. I was running 3 Ophelias because I only had 3 before the tournament, and then I got my 4th, so I took out Reassured because I felt like, again, he just kind of stopped me from getting the pieces I want. Like if I see the Uica or Valshaplan or even Ophelia, I feel like, and a lot of the time I felt like I was I'd build up my board, and then I'd have to call him to the front row unless I wanted to call over a back row booster, which is, I mean, probably the play with him. But I just felt like I was focusing on too many pieces to combo rather than just focusing on a more simple board, get my persona rides, get my perfect guard, like that sort of thing, bounce them back with Uica. So I mean, I knew I needed 4 Uica, and I feel like I never see Valshablan, so I feel like I have
that's kind of ironic.
Force, so I can see him. And but otherwise than that, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. I like the red OT, so you can get the double attack. I think it actually won me a game having that double attack instead of the crit, because I had a whole nother attack and he only had 1 perfect card. That was early rounds, and I think
it's in those moments that can matter. Like, can they stop another 100 million attack?
I think it's just smarter. I do like the crit and grabbing a card from the drop. I think that's very valuable, especially when you need pieces like Persona Ride in this deck and Ophelia's and stuff. But I just, that extra attack, because you're going to get to the late game, and if you hit the OT, it's not going to matter as much about a crit or... Well, the crit will matter, but it's not going to matter as much about grabbing a card from the drop, because the game's probably going to be over at that point. So I did the extra attack was I only hit it once once offensively, might have hit it defensively, but I only hit it once offensively, and I think like I said, the game was already over, so it didn't matter much.
Gotcha. No, it's good that you pointed it out. I was curious about that too. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was I saw a lot of people playing the blue in it, so it was kind of interesting. But I liked the red. Otherwise than that, I mean, I did try 3 of the order at one point. It would have been a massive mistake, I feel like, but I like being able to throw one into soul right off the bat if you get it in your hand, just so you can have more soul to use Valshablan and Uica, because I play 4 of each, and that's a lot of soul. So I kind of did that. I never saw another Wilista player do that, which is, I feel like, a little weird. I only played 2 mirror matches, and it was in the top 8. Top 8, top 4 were both mirror matches. I don't think the first top 8 match, I don't think he was playing Uica at all, which was interesting.
Really? Wow.
Probably just couldn't get it. I mean, it's a pricey card.
It is rough, yeah.
And then Mana, the one player going into the top 8, he was running Reassured, which worked out well for him because he bounced it, put it to the bottom on grade 3 turn, and then saw it again the next turn. So he was seeing it a ton, and if you can do that, it's great. I just feel like if you see that and miss other pieces, it's rough. And if you don't ever see it, then it's just what it is. But it is a good card, and I'm definitely the most on the fence with that card. Probably take out 1 Valshablan and put it in, if anything. But so it's kind of what I was thinking. Just make it as simple as possible so I can see the pieces I need. I stuck on 3 Romana. I felt like I didn't need 4.
Yeah, you definitely value the consistency of your deck for sure. Like all those key pieces, like the deck already does what it does, and I just want to make sure that I could do that every single game if possible, and everything else is kind of like extra, maybe the cherry on top kind of thing. So, and what I value about that too is that because you're doing so many rounds in a tournament, you did 8, right? Like in Swiss, you had to, that's 8 games, and then going into top 8, that's 3 more games. So a total of like 11 games. Like, can I do what I do every single game until like you win the whole thing, basically?
You have to go for consistency entirely at that point. It's you're rarely going to get the one-ofs and see them when you need to. So what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like when you do need it, like, do you see it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And then when you do see it, you don't really need it. I've been there. So I definitely understand. Awesome. And no, it makes a lot of sense too, because like we mentioned that it's very similar to a lot of lists, and just with small variances. And you did a wonderful job on actually like describing your mindset, but also like why you play certain cards too. Is there anything other you want to point out in the deck before we go into your matchups?
It's a pretty simple deck. I got to be honest. I didn't really do much with it.
You know what I like about it is like it's simple but yet effective.
It was effective. I was thoroughly surprised. I I mean, I lost round 1 to Gandiva, heel trigger, which kind of set me back. But I went downstairs and I was like, I got to be 1-0. That can't count as a loss. In my mindset, I got to take that as a win and go, because
move on.
he's like, yeah, I got so lucky. I was like, I lost to it. He healed and then turned around and beat me off Gandiva having 30k columns next turn. And I had 2 perfect guards, but I just couldn't guard 4 attacks. So it was like, it was over. And but then I turned around and I was X1, so right off the bat. So I was kind of playing an easier bracket throughout the rounds. I would have been playing people that had lost, so I was playing like Phantom Blaster Overlord and a
lot of more diverse.
Luke, definitely diverse decks. And then like round 7, 8, I played 2 Gears players because I was X1 at that point, so they were both X1.
Yeah.
So came into better decks later on in the rounds, but it was kind of nice playing some easy games right off the bat and getting into the flow of it kind of helped me out. And then and then getting into the later rounds, it was definitely a little bit tougher. Those Gears players, close games. I also ended like round 4 or 5. I had 1 card in deck.
Oh wow!
And then I got really close. I had to start getting Elvira's off the board. I was just calling over them and stuff like that. But I was losing the early game hard, so I called out 3 Elvira's to my back row, and I drew 4. Next turn, draw 4, and I was just trying to survive as late as I could.
Yeah.
But then like I get down to like 9 cards in deck, and I was like, I can do it one more time, and then I'm pretty much stuck here twin driving 2 turns in a row. So that's but that's where Ophelia also kind of helps a little bit as well, because she allowed me to put a card back in the deck. It allows me to live a little bit longer. I can just kind of strain the game. But I ended 1 card in deck, and then the game after that I ended 3 cards in deck. So it was 2 long games, me just drawing a bunch off of Ophelia. It would have been rough if I would have been playing probably Gandiva or any retired decks, but I think it was round 4 and 5 or 5 and 6. It was 2 of the middle rounds just back to back. I was at low cards and deck very grindy games, but I mean that's what Wilista does.
Yeah, best. You literally draw your advantage, survive, and keep doing your thing until you basically
like drawing
win.
4 cards in a turn for basically free, unheard of in pretty much any deck. So just take advantage of that. And I would say because of that, well, I mean, Gandiva can do it, but you got to give them a board. And they use so many more resources and stuff like that. So it's just it's interesting. It's just Wilista's very strong deck right now, just because of the draw power, can get the attacks you need, and very, very safe with Uica, like just all around what you want right now. I think it will fall out of the meta. Maybe when Evil Eye comes around a little bit, Evil Eye will come up. But right now, for the next few sets, it will be strong. Will be just a really strong deck, and it proved it.
Nice. And that was pretty much your Swiss rounds, right? And
yes, Swiss. Yeah.
Nice. Did you want to go into your top 8 rounds?
Yeah. So top 8, I played. First was mirror match. There were 2 Wilista games that were mirror match. Gandiva mirror match, and then Wilista was playing Zorga. Zorga got knocked out. Gandiva, Wilista went through. So that first round was a pretty easy game. I had honestly just woken up like 20 minutes before the round. I wasn't all there, but like I said, he didn't play Uicas. It was a little unconventional Wilista deck, I felt like.
Gotcha.
So it kind of was what it was. I felt like I just had advantage off of my core deck. And then and it just went smooth as well. I think I high rolled and went first. Round 2, I played Mana, the one that finished first out of Swiss. And he's a good player. He saw Reassured right off the bat and was abusing it against me with Uica. It was looking like a tough game. I did not think I was going to win, just because I was going second, and he was rushing me effectively with Reassured and not giving me much to mess with. So there was not a whole lot I could do, but I kind of got the game drawn out a bunch, and just using Elvira's and stuff. Got to late game, and he had a persona ride 5 attack turn, and I was definitely dead on that turn. I guarded like, the first 3 attacks, had he had 2 attacks left, and I had 1 attack I could guard, 1 I couldn't.
Yeah.
So I was just dead, and then I hit the heal trigger, so it saved my life. It was like karma from round 1 coming.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Winning. It's like, yeah, it was very, very fortunate. I hit a heal trigger. I was like, I got a heal, and I think I did have like 3 heals in the deck. So
it was still probable.
Late game, so it was pretty good chance. I was like, I have a feeling. I don't know. I'm probably dead, but I have a feeling I can hit the heal trigger. Hit the heal trigger, and I just kind of flipped it onto the table, and I was just kind of sitting there looking at it. And the other guy's like, "Well, that's a heal trigger." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Wow. I guess I survived."
That just happened.
At that point, it was just kind of game because he had like 3 cards in hand or something. So I was just like, that's so. I feel bad to a certain extent because I know how it feels, but man, to lose by heal trigger though, it just feels the worst, and especially in top like that.
It can.
That would feel bad. So a lot of credit to him, Mana. He's good sport about it. Really kind.
Yeah.
Had kind words after the tournament as well.
I was gonna say that's always been a thing with Vanguard since like OG days too. You know, heal triggers on 6 damage or critical triggers, but I mean that's part of it, right?
Yeah. And now we got the over trigger too, so that's a whole other
another shebang.
Yeah. So I mean, it was after that I was like, surely the hard part's over. That just felt impossible to win for a second. Heal trigger saved my life. So I mean, once I got to the final, I'm just like, I just heal triggered. It doesn't get much harder than that. We'll see how this goes. And it was just kind of like my first game on stream as well, which they told me round 2 I was, or the top 4 I was going to be on stream, and I was like a little nervous because this is also my first bro. It's my first online event.
Wow. First everything basically.
Yeah. I mean, I went to a few ARGs way back when
they were doing events.
Yeah, I had success. I won a few, but I had never done bro or anything online like this. Gotcha. It's a little new to me, so I was definitely just nervous, and like, you know,
I gotcha.
To play in front of a camera and looking at the screen and going back and forth was just definitely like an adjustment for me.
Yeah.
However, I will say I didn't really. I didn't really misplay throughout the tournament. I didn't have to get a judge in on any of my games or anything like that. Right. Top 8, top 4, and then I go to the camera game, and then top 2, and I'm playing against.
It's the one moment,
and it's the one moment, and it's going well. Right off the bat, let's see, I go first, so really nice, just huge advantage.
Yeah.
And I hit a front trigger, first trigger, and I call out 2 rear guards. So I have a 18. I have I swing 15 with my van, so they can't guard with the trigger. Which I figured if he had a trigger, he would have just taken 2 instead of 3 damage. But I'm guessing he didn't have a trigger at all because he let all 3 of my attacks hit. So I'm sitting 3-0 right off the bat of the game. Wow. Well, no, I would have had 1. He attacked with 2, and I guarded with the trigger. So he would have attacked with the grade 1 and then his grade 1 Vanguard. And I also should have guarded the Vanguard in case he had a crit. I guarded the rear guard, little misplay.
Gotcha.
But yeah, always, guard the van if you can guard a crit.
Especially if it's a kind crit.
Yeah, guarding the little rear. But yeah, we went there. And then it's sitting 3-1. He calls out. He just swings with simple van, doesn't even, and his rear guard couldn't hit. So I'm 2 damage going into 3.
Okay.
I don't think I had a persona ride, so I grabbed a persona ride and put it in my hand and called out an Ophelia. What really hurt that game is I did have an Ophelia hit the drop zone immediately. Okay. And I pitched one first pitch. So I had 2 Ophelias gone right off the bat. Let's see, and then we got to his first grade 3 turn. He hit I 2 to passed him off of my crit heal. the effect heal. That's a crit.
Yeah.
I was sitting at 37 or 38, and he was 37 with the trigger, so he was 27, and he hit front crit. So I take 3 damage, go to 4, and I was like, dang, that definitely hurt.
That hurt.
Yeah, because I had a plethora of guard. I could have perfect guarded it. I could have done whatever, but that's the only time the effect heal would have been useful. It was
Clutch.
that turn right there, really.
Yeah, I got you.
Use it for one. So that hurt a little bit. Wasn't the worst thing. It just means I'm gonna have to be defensive, super defensive from here on out, because I won't be able to survive 2 more turns against the Gandiva with the numbers that they get. And also I have to be more aggressive, because I have to kill them within the next two of my turns. They get 1 turn basically. Yeah. So I Persona Road.
Nice.
On my turn, and saw an Ophelia off the top 5, called the Ophelia, called a Uica. I don't think I saw an Ophelia. I saw Uica Romana, and then called an Ophelia for my hand.
Gotcha.
So, and the whole thing was I forgot to call a booster behind my Vanguard, so I could use the Ophelia.
Oh, so, gotcha.
So I started playing, and I'm telling him how I'm attacking and everything. 5 attacks. I'm telling him exactly like I have a booster behind there. I'm just, for some reason, spaced and so I'm like going through, and I attack with the Ophelia first. Blow my brains out, because now I can't boost with Yuka and bounce it back, because I can't attack with it again. And I'm also not getting another attack, so because it's I was standing 1 because I had Persona Road. So I attack with the other column, and then swing with my van, and then I take the booster behind my Uica and try and put it into my deck and bounce it back. And I just took the Uica and touched my deck together, and was starting to shuffle, and the judge said something, and then I was like, oh man. So I took the Uica, placed it back down, and then shuffled my deck and put it back.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like, what do I do? And he's like, yeah, just Uica back and shuffle and present. I was like, okay. So shuffled, presented, and
it was a reversible game state, that sense, right?
Yeah, easily. I have no idea what the deck state is. He has no idea what the deck state is. Judge has full.
Plus, you did Wilista to randomize it beforehand too.
Yeah. There's no idea. There's no idea to know. And so that happened, and it was a little bit like, I was more worried about. I honestly didn't even see the problem in it, because I had 3 perfect guards in my hand, and I had 10 cards, so I was like, this game's it's kind of just over. There's no way he's going to kill me next turn, and he's just down to few cards in hand. So I didn't really even think about it as much of a problem, because I was seeing it from my perspective instead of from people's perspective that don't know what I have and what he has. Yeah. And so I did that, and I wasn't able to bounce the Ophelia back as well. So it just more than anything, it just really, really hurt me. I only have 1 Ophelia left in the deck. Just multiple things that were just I just misplayed so massively. And then
so you got 4 attacks basically, because you did
4 attacks. Wasn't bouncing the Ophelia. So if anything, it fuels him a little bit, so he can bounce, so he can draw some more off of my cards and stuff like that. But really, I just wanted that Ophelia in my hand more than anything. So I would have an Ophelia for next turn. Yeah. And then so that turn botched, and then his turn goes. I used one of my 3. Actually, I ended up getting my 4th perfect guard off those drive checks. So I had all 4 perfect guards in my hand. I had 3. I had 3 going into that turn, and pitched my Elementaria to grab the order back, because I didn't have a Valshablan. I pitched the Elementaria to grab an order back, and then ended up getting another perfect guard. So I still had 3 going into his turn, and I only burned 1. So I still had 2 after his turn. So I had 2 on my final turn where I killed him. I still had 2 perfect guards in my hand, and a numerous amount of other cards. Given so he goes through his turn. I can't really remember what happens. He might have hit a crit, so I had to guard Van and the last attack.
Yeah.
But because I think I was at 4.
So it sounds like they did 4 attacks then.
Yeah, 4 attacks. I think I guarded everything because I guarded the first 2 because they were easy. He didn't have 5 attacks. Yeah, I guarded the first. He attacked first twice with his rears first for some reason, and then attacked Van, and then attacked with his last column. And not really sure why, but yeah, I would have been going into the last turn with 4 damage because I wouldn't have healed if I hit a heal trigger because he was at 5. And that kind of made me think about taking a damage or not because I had plenty of counterblast to work with. But he went. I used 1 perfect guard. I think I perfect guarded the Van and then front and trigger on his last attack because he hit a crit. So I had to guard the Van in the last attack. Ended up guarding everything, and then we go into final turn. After he guarded my first 3 attacks, I checked top 5 and saw an Ophelia Romana. After my first 3 attacks, he had 2 cards in hand.
Gotcha.
So he was only able to guard one of my last 2 attacks, and took it and tried for a heal. But I mean, a lot of the controversy was my check top 5 see Ophelia because it might have not happened if I didn't shuffle the deck before, or it could have. You really don't know. I mean, I kind of did hurt myself because I didn't hit. I did take a damage. I didn't guard everyone. I took 1 of the first and didn't hit a trigger. And then on these checks, I didn't hit triggers either. So if anything, I mean, it didn't hit me triggers, but did see the Ophelia, which is huge. My only thing is if I don't call out Ophelia, I can call out Elvira and draw. I can call out Valshablon because I did Persona Ride and get +5 to my front row. So I've just got a little bit more plays that aren't so linear. If that didn't happen, so it's just hard to know whenever the deck's at a random state, like what like it could have been a million things. I actually think my OT was out. I used it to guard earlier, but that's just I could have seen many pieces that would have allowed me to either draw into Ophelia, maybe low cards in deck as well, so my chances to see Ophelia were pretty high, or like another Romana swinging just big numbers. I think would have been enough for him not to guard it, especially he said he had like 5k and a dead card in hand, so he had it, and I still had 2 attacks, so he wasn't even able to guard either of them. It sounded like pretty set to me. And I mean, he we went into I DM'd him after the game. I was just like, GG, sorry for the mess and whatever, and he was like, it's all good, it didn't matter, it wouldn't have changed anything, and he was don't worry about the comments. He was a very, very nice guy. Very nice guy.
I think that's the important thing, is that, one, you had a judge involved, 2, even both players are in agreement. I think that's like the most important thing overall. And just looking back at it too, like I think it wasn't going to change much, which is fine. And it could be nerve-wracking being on camera too, like for the first time. I know that a quick story from me, it wasn't my first bro, but like immediately round 1, like in the Asia one, so it's the very first bro of the weekend, I was already being featured. So pretty much peak time, everybody's ready for the weekend to start, and you got like hundreds of people watching you. So I understand that, like, wow, this right off the back. Okay, no, I gotcha. So I definitely understand, but it's you'll get used to it, and there's more events moving forward too.
It's a learning thing. More you play the game. I mean, I hadn't been playing Wilista very long. Maybe it's not even a month. I didn't even have 4 Ophelias that whole time. So it was just like, brain dead moment. Lot was moving, and I was just, trying my best, I'd say, which I just felt so fortunate that I got there in the first place. I wasn't expecting to win. I mean, I didn't, it's not like I needed to. I was happy with making top for all I
Right. That's a good recognition already.
I'm a very competitive person, and I'm going to try and win. So I got there, and I was definitely trying, but I felt like it was a little out of my control at that point. Definitely the misplays are in my control, but I just felt like what's going to happen, what's going to happen, and that's kind of how it went.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, that's really good. And just to wrap up the interview a little bit, after the event, like what are some things that you learned or reaffirmed coming out of it?
I was just super, super happy with how smooth it went. I was very surprised. I thought it was going to be like, I just thought I was going to have a whole lot more tech stuff that I was going to have to do, or it just sounded a whole lot more complicated, but they've smoothed down the process so much and made it really easy for the players, which I got to give a lot of credit to Bushy for that, and the people that were running the event. They made it very easy, and a lot of the players were super nice, even though it was like my first time with the whole camera and whatnot. A lot of them were just so kind and generous, and very helpful.
Oh, it's a really good experience. And thanks for pointing that out. Sometimes people just complain, but you saw the good.
You'll get those. I definitely tried to ignore that. It happened, but what can you do? You got to look at the positive outcomes of it.
Absolutely, and that's so
the
big
negative
too.
People will fade away, so you just let them have their moment if they see that as a moment, and just move on to better things.
True. Awesome. And then, one of the things that I like to ask for the viewers is that, what advice would you give to players that are wanting to top, or maybe what's something in your eyes that may be holding back a player from topping?
I definitely say, I'm very numbers based. I'm very technical with every little detail, every little number, like how the numbers will change, stages of guarding. Those are things that are very important when I play the game, because that's how the game makes sense to me. So I definitely say break down the game, like every turn and what you're going to accomplish. Like early game should match what you're doing late game. Like there's no point to be aggressive early game if you're not going to get something out of it, if you're giving them damage and stuff like that. So there's a lot that comes with playing the game a while, but I'd say there's a lot that also comes with just maybe studying the game. Like there's a lot of videos of not really tutorials, but gameplay where they don't really break down, but you can break it down individually. So it's like more I'm just interested on the little minute details that might not matter that will end up mattering in the long run. That's very important to me. I'd also say another one for topping is a lot of people don't like to play the meta. Well, people like to play the meta decks, but some people don't like to play the meta decks. You're only gonna get so far with some of these decks. Some of them just don't have the ability to draw 4 cards in a turn, and
it's double pot agree.
It's too strong, and the meta is sometimes. I haven't always played meta decks. Back whenever I was playing Stride, I was playing Revengers. I was playing Break Ride Revengers forever during Stride format because it was just my favorite deck, and so it definitely comes down to like what you like to play. But I sometimes some of the meta decks, like Gandiva's a good deck that easily could have won that tournament, and it's not very hard to get. It's ready from just a set. So literally. I would say don't be hesitant to play the meta decks. Like some of them are just gonna win tournaments, and there's nothing you can do about it. I would have said that about Youth too at Worlds. Youth was Orphis could have won, but Youth there, I didn't see it losing. Meta decks are OP.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I like how you broke down those two things. The first thing is like break it down turn by turn. What are you trying to accomplish in the short term, in the long term? Game states, the numbers, like all that stuff does matter. I think sometimes people just kind of like put cards on the table and then just rest them and swing, hope for the best kind of thing. That's obviously like an extreme example, but like, people need to kind of like take a step a little bit to slow down and see what they're doing. And then the second thing, what you pointed out is that, you know, it's okay not to play a meta deck, but just realize that it's going to be an uphill battle to do just as well. Yeah.
However,
you know.
I can't say you won't get more credit for topping with a non-meta deck. I would credit anyone who could get Zorga into top 8. That's
right.
Give it a
That's
mask.
respect.
It's not bad. It's a pretty good deck, but I mean, with 5 Wilistas and 2 Gandivas, that's pretty impressive. I did not play. I don't think I played a mirror match all day and then got into top and had to play 2 back-to-back.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That was interesting.
You would definitely see the metagame decks in the top cut for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts, and I appreciate just having the opportunity, and also kudos to you on winning the whole thing too. And lastly, do you have any shout outs you want to do?
Give a shout out to Alan. He definitely is the reason why I had such success, I would say. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Jaime.
Oh, absolutely, man. So I'm sure he's very proud of you. He chats with me and DM too, and he's just super excited that you did so well too. So it's good to have some people like that push you, nudge you a little bit, but also like are supportive at the same time. So don't ever take it for granted. I mean, I know you won't, but it's just like for the viewers, like understand that you have some good people in your circles too. So
yeah, I know he's such a good guy. Such a good guy.
Awesome. Thanks again, Curtis. I appreciate you. And so for amigos, on to the next time. Bye.
Thank you so much. See you.